No one wants a rental sitting empty, but filling a unit fast is only helpful if you're filling it with the right tenant. Hi, I'm Megan. I love investing in real estate and empowering others to do the same. In my last video, I went through my quick and easy tenant turnover process, but today I want to dive more deeply into the most important step in that process, screening prospective tenants. I'll walk you through the 5 steps I follow to screen tenants. 1. Minimum qualification standards. 2. Applications and supporting documents. 3. Background and credit check. 4. Rental and employment verifications. 5. Tenant approval and next steps. And stick around for some bonus screening ideas at the end. Step 1, minimum qualification standards. I have a set list of minimum qualification standards that I use for every prospective applicant, and I do not deviate from this. These are the policies that guide how I put tenants in place, and I put them in black and white so everyone knows what to expect before they even apply. So people who are interested in my unit see these before they even fill out an application. They see it in the listing that I put out there on apartments.com and Facebook and wherever else. They also see it in the email I send them to get them set up for a showing. So I'm making sure that they're reviewing these and they know what to expect. Every once in a while, there is a situation where my most qualified applicant falls a little short on 1 or 2 of these requirements. And in that case, I reserve the right to either require them to have a cosigner or require them to make a double security deposit. And I explain this to them if they're falling short. Now, this is something that I try not to do, but it's an option if I do need to. You should check with your state and local laws to see if any of these options are allowed or not allowed in your area. In the state of Missouri, I am allowed to charge up to a double security deposit and or have a cosigner. Step 2 is collecting applications and supporting documents. You could do this a variety of ways, but make sure you have a set application with the same sections and the same questions that you use every time for every applicant. It might be something that you email them, a Word document, something you collect in Google Forms, but I really like using tenant management portals. I have a property management portal that I use. I set up my application in that early on, and I just use the same one every single time for every single applicant. In addition to filling out the application in full, they should not have any required areas left blank. I require them to submit 2 months worth of pay stubs and a copy of a government issued photo ID, a driver's license or other such photo ID. When I've collected all of this, I save it to a tenant application file. And this is where I'm going to put every bit of documentation as I receive it through this whole screening process. An important tip is in your application, make sure that you go down to the part in my applications. I have an authorization section that says that I'm allowed to reach out to employers and past landlords to collect information about this person. I save that page of it along with their signatures showing they have agreed to it as a separate document that I can then send as a release of information when I'm sending my verification requests. Another important note about applications is that I make sure I send a link to my application page to every single person who shows interest in the unit. I want to make sure that I'm never denying someone before I've seen their application. If they would like to apply, even if they've read my minimum qualification standards and they don't quite fit them, if they still want to try to apply, I want to make sure that I take them through the formal process and then I give them a formal reason based on their application why I cannot approve them for that unit. I want to make sure everyone knows that they're being treated fairly throughout the whole process, so every person who shows interest gets a link to the application. Step 3 is the background and credit check. I don't charge an application fee, but I do make my prospective tenants financially responsible for the cost of the background and credit check. And they pay this directly to whatever service is doing that. So in my property management portal, I set up my application so that it prompts the applicant to pay for the background and credit check directly. This usually costs between $40 and $50. If you don't have a property management portal that you're using that directly connects to one of these screening services, you can go to a place like rentprep.com. I've used them in the past. There's also mysmartmove.com, which is powered by TransUnion, and several other options out there for screening tenants directly if you're not doing it through a management portal. Again, as soon as you get the screening report back, save it to your tenant application file. Step 4, rental and employment verification. If you've watched my past video where I talked about my turnover process as a whole, you know that I really love Gmail templates. So I set up Gmail templates for every type of communication with current and prospective tenants that I might have. 2 of these emails that I use over and over again when going through my tenant screening process is rental verification forms and employment verification forms. And I'm actually sending these to past landlords and current employers of the prospective tenant. Again, earlier in the process, I told you when you get that application application, have a section in there that authorizes you to contact these people and collect information. Make sure the prospective tenant has signed that. Send that release of information as an attachment when you're sending these rental verification forms or employment verification forms. In my application form, I request information for up to 3 previous landlords. You can usually expect to get at least 2, and then out of that, you hopefully will get 1 to 2 rental verification forms back from previous landlords. You should have the current employer's information, and you definitely want to get that employment verification back from them. Even if you receive pay stubs, you should send the employment verification form and make sure you get that back. I have heard stories of landlords receiving fake, bogus pay stubs from people in the past, and then they end up putting a tenant in place who doesn't actually have a job at all. Step 5 is tenant approval and next steps. So once you have received a completed application and all the supporting documents you need, you've gotten a background and credit check, you've gotten your rental verification and employment verification, and you've confirmed that this prospective tenant meets all your minimum qualification standards, you're ready to approve them and get them moved in, hopefully really quickly. If you're in the lucky position to have multiple applicants who qualify for the property, I always do a first come first served basis. Out of the people who applied first, and or who can move in the most quickly. So if I had 3 tenants apply, 2 of them could move in on the 1st of the month, the 3rd could move in on the 10th of the month, then it's down to the 2 who could move in on the 1st of the month. And between them, it's down to who completed their application first. And this, I think, is the fairest way to decide who's going to be in my unit. It's based strictly on speed. They're all pretty much equally qualified. So that's how I will whittle it down. So once I've approved a tenant, I again go to one of my trusty Gmail templates and I send them a new tenant acceptance email. This tells them that they've been accepted, when their move-in date is, and what their next steps are. The most important part of the next steps is getting that lease signed and getting the security deposit as soon as possible. I do not start marketing the unit or take down the listing or stop showing the unit until I have a signed lease and a security deposit in hand. In fact, when the tenants are signing those lease documents, I include a form called a deposit to hold agreement. What this document says is that the deposit is actually a non-refundable deposit to hold the unit up until the point that they have satisfied all move-in requirements. Once they have moved in, they've turned on utilities in their name, they paid the first month's rent, so on and so forth, then it transitions into the refundable security deposit, which they can get back in full at the end of their residence. So those are my 5 steps to screening tenants, and I found that when I follow this process consistently, I move through it quickly using my templates and my systems. I'm able to place tenants really quickly. I get quality tenants. They often stay for multiple years, and I've reduced my vacancy, as I said in my last video, maybe to about 2 weeks between tenants every 2 to 3 years. So I hope that this process will help you do the same, but wait, there's more. If you're looking for some advanced tenant screening strategies, if you're not quite sure about someone, if you want to dig in a little further, here are 2 ideas that you can use the next time you're screening a tenant. First of all, social media. We're probably all on social media. Most of your applicants are probably on social media, and you can always go do a little digging to see if they have a public profile that would help you get a feel for whether what they say about themselves is true. Do they have a job? Have they been in the rental unit they said they're in? Are they living in the area already? Or are they actually coming from out of state and they didn't mention that? Whatever the case may be, you can use social media to look up public information that could confirm or deny what they're telling you about themselves. The second option for digging a little deeper is to find your state court record portal. I've actually taken the time to compile a list of the free portals across all 50 states. Here in Missouri, we use a site called CaseNet, and this allows you to look up people by name and see if there's anything out there that shows that they would not be a good tenant. Maybe they have previous landlords who have taken them to court over some issue, and these websites can help you find out if that's the case. I hope you found this video helpful in understanding the best way to consistently screen your incoming tenants. If you haven't already watched the video about my entire tenant turnover process, make sure you go back and watch last week's video. I think it's really helpful. I hope you'll find a few good tips in there. As always, let me know in the comments below if you have any questions at all. Please subscribe and share, and as always, keep learning, keep growing, and have fun.